it's a little after 6. I was kind of waiting in case some stragglers came in. Are you recording?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody knows the meeting's being recorded apparently. So, for all of you that do not know me, I'm Jason from the president of Seymour Ball Club. I oversee kind of the whole works, the whole kit and caboodle. I just want to kind of run down the board, everybody kind of introduce yourself, so everybody knows who we are.
Okay, I'm Cassie. I am the secretary.
Craig, I deal with the equipment here on the board.
Eric, I'm the volunteer coordinator. Stephanie, I'm the treasurer.
Travis Moss, I'm the girls softball president.
Brett Mallett, I am the Flame Stars liaison, back and forth communication guy.
I'm Nicole Owen, I'm the sponsorship and fundraising coordinator.
Terry McFadden, I'm the concessions manager and 14 and high school coordinator.
I'm Lindsay Simple and I am scheduling.
Cassie Kett, 12U coordinator.
Krista, 8U coordinator and concessions assistant.
Okay, thanks guys. So before we really get into stuff here, this is obviously just an open forum for you guys to get questions answered, concerns brought to the board, whatever. I want this to be very civil. There are kids in the building, so let's keep our cool. Obviously, we're being recorded, so we'll start with that. There's a lot of you that are returning folks, a few new people. I'm not sure what the mix is, but Seymour Ball Club started 51 years ago by a couple dads out here in Seymour to give the children or the kids of Seymour a place to play. And so, as we've grown, obviously, we've reached out to more communities, have gotten involved, kids coming from all over the place. With that growth, obviously comes some growing pains sometimes. So, this is one of those times. We hit some bumps in the road. It's happened before. We'll get through it. We're going to trudge on with the season just like we normally would. So that is the biggest thing, is to just put this behind us, move forward. The season is not going to be affected. It's not going to change. If we have to adjust some teams quick, we will. So, a little bit of how we got to this point. Obviously, we have a large board. Sometimes not everybody sees things the same way. The disagreements, it happens. It's part of being on a board. So, kind of a little, I guess, back history or lead up to what has transpired. There's been a lot of animosity on our board in the past. Some stuff that we would rather not have happen. So, trying to put that behind us. It basically came to a head a week or so ago. We had a board meeting. In the meeting, and 3 times during that meeting, I said to our board, we cannot continue operating the way we're operating. There's too much stuff, back and forth, yelling. People are scared to talk to each other. They're scared to speak up about things. It basically came down to finally a member stood up and told 3 of our board members they need to learn when to shut up. And at that point, I asked for the removal of those 2 board members. One got up, resigned, walked out the door. The other one, we put a vote together. It was an absolutely legal vote. I can call a vote to remove a board member anytime I want per our bylaws for being detrimental to the program. So I felt that was happening. The vote passed on 9-6 with 1 abstaining. Todd at that point asked us how I had the power to do that. I pointed out the article of the bylaws that showed that. He then said, or stated that the bylaws weren't signed or ratified, whatever. They're a copy of our bylaws that we got from the discussed it, and we paused the vote, or suspended the vote. The vote still counted, but we suspended it for the time being. And then said to the board, we need to get a communication out to Stars families, letting them know that Paul resigned, and we will put somebody in place interim, whether it be Todd or me or somebody else. Todd said he would handle that communication for us as the baseball president. I said, okay. And 2 days later, he sends out an email to all of the Stars people, of course, saying that Paul was gonna stay on as the director, and that we took an illegal vote and whatnot, and basically spun everything that we were supposed to say completely different. At that point, I basically reinstated the vote and removed Todd. He said he wasn't leaving until he finally resigned. So Paul and Todd have resigned, they've moved on, they're taking their 2 teams with them, and that's fine, I wish them the best. Our job as the board is to look out for what is best for the whole ball club, not one facet of it or the other. That is my job. Girls come to me all the time with requests. Boys come to me with requests. I'm the guy that kind of has to look at both of those and look at what's best for the club. So that's what I thought was best for the club at the time, with the way the board was operating. So that's kind of put us in the spot that we're in. For now, the plan is to move forward. Travis Moss and Jason Bovey, who couldn't be here tonight on the girls' side, vice president and president, are gonna step up and help me manage the boys' side until we get somebody in the role. So, right now, we are moving forward with our season. We're planning to start practices Monday. Cleanup day is tomorrow, so we get the park ready to go, and we're gonna move forward. If we have to adjust a few teams here and there, we'll make those adjustments. So, with that said, I will kind of open up to you guys for any questions you have. Please just be calm and orderly and raise your hand, and we'll call on you, and we'll answer your questions as best our abilities. Okay? Yes, sir.
You guys want to elaborate on why Paul snapped out at that meeting on Monday? What pushed him over the top? Was it right? What was said about him?
I don't think there was anything personally said about it.
There was nothing that was sent out, a text message to the board members, or anything like that, about records, or anything that made him snap the way he snapped?
Not that I know of.
Not from this board, no.
I know there has been some stuff that got put out on social media.
Yep.
I was out of town when that happened. I got screenshots of it. That was nobody from this board.
Well,
In fact,
it was brought to their attention from the board member.
No,
I
it
have
was not.
multiple text messages from local businesses and people I do work with, and asked why those were made public on a Facebook page that was public to moms. And that's uncalled for. That's sickening, to be honest with you.
I agree. And we actually called Jeff.
I would like to
Jansen.
say something about that. So, I'm the town chair here out in the town of Seymour, and one of the administrators for the moms group, also I saw it on the moms group. As soon as it was there, I immediately got a hold of the administrator to get it down. Immediately. Unfortunately, by the time she had it down, there was like 30 plus comments. It was completely out of control, and any moms who saw it know how awful it was. It was posted anonymously, which I think is just not okay. And I know one of the administrators of that group, so I immediately asked her who it was, and it's a resident out here. Not anyone affiliated with the board at all. I know who it is. That person has contacted me a few times about what she thinks about the club. But it isn't anybody that's affiliated with the ball club, because prior to this all happening, I actually had asked the ball club, who is this person? Why is she sending me these messages, and like what relation is this? And had nothing to do with the board at all.
So this person didn't get any information from a board member at all? My understanding is there was a group text that was sent out from board members.
That I don't know anything about, but I just wanted to speak to the moms group, because I wanted to make it really clear, because I think there definitely was some thought that with what was shared, even initially, even I read it and I was like, oh, who is writing this? This is not okay. And even I immediately was like, holy smokes, what's going on? But I did check into it, and you know, and confirmed it is not. I do know who it is, and I'm not gonna share.
So,
That's
just,
fine.
just so you're aware, when our new board got elected, every single person in this board got a packet, mailed to them anonymously, with a whole lot of information. They were told to do nothing with it, throw it away. So, whether it was that person that did it, we're all aware of it, we did not tell anybody, anything. So,
Can you speak up?
oh, sorry, yeah. So yes, there has been stuff sent to us, and we have done nothing with it. So,
I guess I'd like a little more clarification on the backstory to this. I mean, you're starting your story from when Paul blew up.
Mhm.
But there's obviously stuff that created that situation. Most of it, from my understanding, has to deal with Field 7. So the board has different opinions on the failure between the Seymour Ball Club
right,
and the town board.
okay,
I think there's a lot of information that needs to be shared on where the failures took place, whose fault it was, how it could be prevented, and why are we blaming one person or two people? We got a lot of people that knew that field was getting built, and nobody stopped it. And then as soon as a town board member gets mad, then it's finger pointing. That is not acceptable.
I did not point a finger at anybody. In fact, I said at the town meeting, and you can ask Jess, I took blame for that. The Field 7 project got voted on by our board. It passed 7-6, I believe. I voted against it, and that's fine. That's a difference of opinion. I didn't think we were ready for that field yet, so when it got voted on, then it's my job to go to the town and have that discussion with them. It got voted on, and 2 days later, the town got a digger's hotline ticket before I even got a call into them. So they called me, obviously yelling at me. I said, yeah, we voted on it, we passed it as a board, so whatnot. The first time I heard of the town being that upset about it was when we had their meeting with the town, when they called us in. And at that meeting, I took the blame and said, that's my job, I didn't communicate fast enough, I'm sorry. We're moving forward on that, trying to get past that. So we need to put a plan together with how we're gonna address the bathrooms and the septic and all the other stuff, the infrastructure stuff that needs to be done. Once we get that plan together, we will be able to move forward with Field 7 and finishing that off.
So, by a show of hands on the board, could you tell me who was at the meeting where this blow up took place?
Can I make 2 points of clarification?
There?
So the social media stuff and everything where that blew up, that one took place after the meeting that he blew up at. Just so you know, it was not before. So I just wanted to clarify that. And are you talking about the town board meeting with Jessica? Or?
Wherever this, whenever, if it was, I don't know if it was town board or if it was, you know.
The
you guys
meeting
know
on
when that
Monday.
happened.
When he resigned, it was pretty much all of us were there.
Okay.
So,
You were virtual.
between online or in person.
And just for clarification, and hopefully people can speak up to this, but I wanna know, I've been told that the buttons that were pushed were, Paul being told that it was his fault that the town board was not informed. And then that's where the shut your mouth comment came from. So I wasn't there, don't know, but I'd like to hear from you guys.
I will tell you, I was the person at the town board meeting. Jason Woodford took blame, right, and said, I didn't communicate with the town, right, and that ownership. I also said, at any point in this time, in this entire planning committee, which Jason was a part of in April, never got to meet in June, and then never heard from him again until it came back to the board. He's supposed to be on that committee. He wasn't included in communications. The Google Drive with all the documents for Field 7 is empty. Like, I don't even have the budget or what we've spent now because somebody took it down, I don't know where it is, right? The point is, while yes, it is Jason's job to communicate with the town, it is extremely tricky when we are all volunteers. You know, we all work day jobs, we all have responsibilities. So did he call it a timely fashion? No. But what I will share is the night after, that night of that meeting, March 3rd, at 4 in the morning, an email was sent to the town from Paul. So you could have, at any point in this process, also been one of the people who reached out. It is the normal protocol that it is Jason. But how can he inform the town of the plans that are going on when he wasn't included either? So it's just a point of reference and clarification.
Okay, so I wanna make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You're telling me that we walked in and we said Field 7 was good to go. Seymour Ball Club said great, but we didn't contact
The
town
landlord,
of Seymour. But we still went, we got our permits and we got Digger's Hotline and we continued without the proper authorization?
So,
Why did we do that? Why did we do that?
Field 7, me and Jessica have worked tirelessly on this, we worked with the county on it. Field 7, the septic, the bathrooms, all of the stuff that we have planned for upgrades is already had all the permits for it, all the stuff's approved. It is listed with the county parks department. So essentially, it's all been approved by the town, just the timeline, right? They're upset, obviously, that we didn't do the bathrooms first, the infrastructure first.
I think it just took off without
Right.
anybody knowing, it's just a small.
Yeah, when the notification was Digger's Hotline, and it was, and so, you know, all of a sudden, I'm getting calls and texts from our, you know, ground supervisor going, well, do you know what's going on? What's going on? I'm like, nope, I don't know what's going on. You know, it had been a year, maybe, since we had even talked about anything at all. There was just so, like, I mean, if somebody tells me something 12 months ago, I'm not, in my head, I'm going, yeah, okay, you know.
Right, but we are all adults here. I'm sure everybody here has done some type of construction on their home or property and know that we all need permits. And to have permits, you have to go to your township, your city, your county, and you have to have all that stuff in mind before you start. Why did we not have that done?
We had all the permits.
the
Well,
permits
you're
were
just telling me
done,
that the town didn't have, the town didn't authorize that.
they didn't know when it was starting, right? So we authorized it a long time ago, we're gonna build this field when we have enough money, what we were doing was building a nest egg to get a matching grant to then build the field, right?
But like, I did construction on my home and my permit has got X amount of days on that permit that I paid for before I have to reapply for that. That would be the same, I would assume, in the town.
Our
Of
permits
Seymour.
our permits for that field are through the DNR. So every 2 or 3 years, they gotta be updated or basically renewed if we haven't finished the construction project. So that's all, the shed, the parking lot, the field was all one DNR permit. So we just continued to renew it until we were ready to put the field in.
And the DNR did not have to go to the town of Seymour to give them this information and be like, this is what's going on, this is what their plans are.
I don't think the DNR has to go to the town.
The
Well,
DNR is very thorough.
Yeah.
I know, because I do construction. And
I don't know the process for the DNR contacting the town. I have no idea.
I'll be honest, I don't either.
It seems like just.
I think those are really good questions, but to be honest, I don't know the answers.
I just feel like there's a lot of blame here, and I don't wanna blame one person. I feel like we moved forward without the correct stuff, because we thought we could hide underneath the covers.
And that's part
Kinda
of the
like a
problem.
teenager coming in, you know, past curfew.
When was
I'm
the
not
initial,
protection, and I feel
the
like
Digger's
that's a-
Hotline notification? Before digging, right? So September?
So,
We voted on it
Okay.
September 9th.
but nobody got mad until March. How, I mean, it's so.
Well, that's
the-
not true.
I mean, you guys
I
knew there
put,
was
yeah,
construction workers out there
it
with
came
it.
up, several times with the board. And
Why did it stop?
Yeah, why didn't you see more town hall go out there and say?
So what were the requests at that point? So you were notified in September at some point that construction was happening. The board was obviously, or the township was obviously aware at that point. Reached out to Woody where he apologized for not relaying that information. Was it at that point that the expectations of bathroom, septic, possibly the water system being updated then, or was that delayed until March of this year when the project was put on hold? Sounds like a yes.
I mean, did we stop the project right at that moment? No. I will tell you that, you know, as most of you probably know, I didn't run for reelection my term is done in like, I don't know, 10 days. Because I have a full-time job and this is like,
As we all do.
right? And so I could probably tell you that the day that this happened and I got notified, I probably was between patients and probably saw a text message and probably texted him like, what the heck is going on? And then texted in like in between everything else. And by the end of the day, it was like, well, the field's probably half done. Who knows? I don't know. I will be very honest. That
So
day,
7 months
I don't
goes
even
by and we
recall.
don't have any expectations as to what has to be done by the Seymour board relayed
I will.
to the board?
Yeah, well, I will say that we haven't had any issues with the ball club. Up to, so I've been on the board, it'll be 4 years. And in that 4 years, I feel like we've had a pretty good working relationship with the ball club.
Sure.
If there's ever been something that maybe wasn't quite right, or they needed something, or we needed something, we would come together, we would talk. It just has never really been a thing. And so even like kind of when this happened, it was like, whoa, hold on, what's going on? And I don't know if there was a true understanding, even like on my end, so I'll take some of this too, like of just how significant this was. It was kind of like, yeah, we're putting in field 7, and I'm like, okay, is that, and then by the time it kind of moved forward, and then it's one board member, that was like, well, hold on, like, how are they gonna water that? How are they, what about the well? And so that's actually when it started, the conversation started going. And I'll be really honest, at first, it was kind of like, well, I guess they're gonna have to figure that out. Maybe they'll take a hose out and, seriously.
So
like,
is
I
that the
really
first time that
wasn't-
that's been brought up then, like with the bathrooms too? Because I've been out
the
here 3
bathrooms
years
have
now.
been kind of an ongoing conversation,
Okay.
and I think that maybe that might be a question for the board on how clear those
In your 4 years,
priorities-
do you know, like, has that been brought up in your
Yeah.
4 years?
Yeah, it has, and so.
Like 4 years ago, 3 years ago? Can you give us a timeline on that?
At least within the last couple of
We've
years.
been talking about new bathrooms.
But this
for
bathrooms,
3
I
years.
mean, that's been a while. I
Okay.
mean, almost as soon as I got on the
Why
board,
hasn't it
Jason
been
was
approved
reaching out
before
and
the field
talking
was
to me
approved?
about wanting
That was
to.
the only,
We don't have any money.
We didn't have enough money to do the bathrooms.
but,
$650,000.
so you have a board meeting, you vote yes unanimously for field 7, knowing that you have to have septic, bathroom, all that stuff done before field 7 is even an option. Why was field 7 even approved then?
We don't know,
Well, you guys are board members, you should
because
know.
they sold us on it, that we had 3 teams that.
And you voted on it, right?
They voted on it.
Who's they? You or you?
The
voted on
board, yeah. Actually, last year's board, because it was before the new board took over.
it? And,
The field 7 isn't the problem, it's all.
well, that's what you
Well,
guys,
so this-
that's why you guys are pointing fingers at. Like, you're making it the problem.
Field 7 is an issue because we bypassed other infrastructure problems that should have been taken priority. Instead, we were sold that this bigger field had to happen. We have a septic system out here that is literally made for a household, a house. Because when it was originally built in 1974, there was 2 fields here. We have to pump it like 14 times a year, before and after every tournament, at $400 and some odd a pop. Our board, in my personal opinion, was irresponsible in voting in field 7 the way it went in. Me, phase 1 would have been put the electrical in, start working for the irrigation system and get a new well before you build a field that we can't run power, we can't run a well, we can't run a sprinkler system. So we spent $134,000, can't get any of that back because none of the grants were written as promised when we took the vote, right? And that we were gonna lose 3 teams and all of these kids and everybody's gonna leave because they don't have a place to play. So we spent the money.
But yet you guys voted on it. No,
We
you
did,
didn't.
and so we're not arguing that, we voted on it, but the 4 years we worked to make $134,000 to go towards that field, and it's now gone because they said a grant was getting written, it never got written. Even if you write it down, they will not pay for work that's already done.
The grant had till May 1st to be written, right?
That was, but they won't pay for work already done, you had to get the grant approved before you did anything. Todd?
So,
You had a question.
I helped Jason get the DNR permit when?
5 years ago.
5, 6.
Yeah, long time.
We've been extending the DNR permit. I can talk just to the DNR permit. It can be extended. It's for moving dirt. You have to have the field, and it covered the big parking lot out there, but there wasn't enough money to get that other field built.
And so, you know, as far as the town, yeah, I think, you know, you had the, you know, somebody calls in Digger's Hotline just to move dirt. It's not like bathrooms are getting put in or a septic is getting put in. It's just, the DNR permit is just to disturb the ground, to get a field smoothed out there and get the detention pond built. And that's what I helped you with years ago, you know, and so those permits can be extended, and the rest of it is just stuff that you need once the field is graded out. If you don't grade out that area back there for the field, you can't put up bleachers, you can't put up bathrooms, you can't put up anything else. And so, you know, I'm listening to this, you know, just because I have a kid that wants to play baseball here this summer, and I am a resident of the town of Seymour and helped with this years ago, and I heard about all this, so I'm like, well, but like was just discussed, you know, you can't get a grant for the parking lot. You gotta get a grant for the rest of it that's not done yet. But, you know, there's work to be done now, and anybody can call it Digger's Hotline. And everybody with, you know, a wire in the ground or that owns the land gets a ticket to say, go mark all your utilities that are out there. So, from my perspective, and kind of an outsider that hasn't been involved with this, I can kind of see, you know, yeah, there's a DNR permit and everybody wants to know, but really that's one of the few permits to do that big first work that's been in place for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think we have to go to the town to get a building permit to put fencing up. You know what I mean?
But either way, that would have been the committee's job to participate.
Yes, sir.
So, the bathrooms,
Yes.
how long you know that they need to be upgraded?
Okay.
Why wasn't it done?
You gotta have $600,000 to do it.
15 years ago, you didn't need 600,000.
When I first
25 years ago, you didn't need 600,000.
When I first looked at the bathroom project was 5 years ago, and I was not here 25 years ago. Sorry. That was, we started looking into it, and it was $600,000. We did not have that in our account.
It seems like we've been kicking the can down the road. Right?
How much?
Well, you gotta have enough funds to.
How much money have you raised for it?
But should have been raising for that, and now all of a sudden we're at this point where we up at 14 guys a year.
We've been raising funds for it for the last 3 years.
How much you got in the bank on that?
Now zero.
Where's it go though? Like donations, fundraisers,
went to Field 7.
all of it went to Field 7 in the last.
Well, you gotta have operating income, you gotta have money in the bank to get a season through.
So you also brought up too that there was a Google Doc drive with all the expenses for Field 7.
Yeah.
And you said you don't know where it went.
It's gone.
Checks were wrote out, correct?
Yeah, we have
Who's
that.
the treasurer?
We have the information on how much we've spent on that.
Okay, who signed the checks?
We sent them through RCU.
I asked who signed the check. When I do business with the city of Mondovi, I have the mayor's signature, the city administrator's signature, and one other signature. Who signed the checks to make those payments?
Well, we use your staff that submitted the payment to RCU.
Okay, so you know where the money went.
Yeah, it's in
Can we see
construction
that?
companies.
Can we see financials as to where that's at?
Absolutely.
When it comes to our financials, why are we not giving at the end of our season, after the books have been done for our season, why are we as parents, coaches, board members, giving where we were at, concessions raised? We spent $80,000 on concessions, we raised $120,000. Why are we not giving that?
We go through that with the board every year.
Right, you go with that to the board, but as part of this, that should be placed out. This is where we're at, this is what we made off tournaments, this is what we did off this, that should be given out at the end of every season after the year fiscal year is done.
I think it'd be, we could, nobody's ever asked, to be clear.
I've never seen an organization that gives every single.
Menominee Baseball
Okay,
Association
so
does.
board meetings
Hallie
are
baseball
open.
does it as well.
You could attend a board meeting if you want to
I
know
can get a phone
financials.
call and get Mondovi right now. Right from a board member in Mondovi, I can get the numbers right now.
I'm just saying, I think that we would have a lot more, I appreciate everything that this is doing for my son. I'm appreciating him
There's a
playing
lot
ball, but
Problems, and I'm assuming the,
we just need to have better, clear.
We're not hiding it.
What if you want it, just ask for it.
I mean, we have, Whitfleet was doing our taxes for years, we had a CPA company doing our taxes the last 5 years. Nothing's out of whack, we're not, the money is what the money is.
Right, I'm just saying, as a club in general, I think it'd bring a lot more parents' eyes open to being where we're at, how great our tournaments are doing, how great this is doing, what we're spending on this, and how it's helping the children, you know what I mean? Like, if we're bringing in extra speed and strength, speed and agility, and we're only charging $5, but we're paying them X amount of dollars, but we're seeing it, what it gives our kids, I think that's what we need, just as individuals of this club. We need to see that. You know, my kid's got, in his ball bag, has got 2 of my mortgages, you know what I mean, like, how many car payments is it people carrying around, you know what I mean? My kid's baseball bag is more than my purse. I think just simple things like that puts a lot more ease into us parents, because what you guys are doing is fantastic. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie, I don't wanna be where you're at. I was on that for United Eau Claire soccer team, and I don't wanna be where you guys are at, because it is hard work. You work your jobs, you have your families, and you come and do this. And I greatly appreciate it. It's just letting people know, like, hey, we have a bill for $8,000 to uniforms. This is where, you know, like, at the end of the year, it just is out there. We know where the money went, you know where the money went. People can't say Jimmy John sold $18,000 from anything. It's just clear and straight to the point.
and how much money that you guys profited that can go back into the club. That would, or it can be divvied up to the bathrooms, field 7, any other improvement, you guys can divvy that back out as to where it needs to go. And then we know exactly where we are for fundraising, what we need for funds.
Right.
I mean, it's expensive, I know it is. Mondovi's having the same problem with their bathrooms. They need to upgrade in, down there, people have been in Mondovi, then well, bathrooms need to be redone.
Yeah.
It's the same way there, I mean, they have issues twice a year.
Unfortunately, we're trying the fundraising efforts, like that's part of the biggest reason we brought Fever Fest back, right? Was to have a community event, to raise money, to help try to do things to improve the park. That's why we bartend at Country Fest and Rock Fest. It's one of the lowest risk things we can do. We go there, we serve, we select a whole bunch of money for our organization. It's been very lucrative and very good and whatever. But what our point was to build a nest egg, right? To be able to write a matching grant. So we spent $134,000. If we could have wrote the grant and got that matching money, we had $260,000. But we didn't do that. Because somewhere along the way, a step got missed. I don't know, I'm not sure, right? But we did put our faith in that was what was happening. To find out literally a month ago, they never even got applied for. So now where our goose egg is empty. We have to kind of start over, if that makes sense. Should we be investing maybe $2,000 in a CD and making 2%? Who knows, but.
Chris?
I just want to say, I mean, I can't count how many boards I'm on. The only reason why I'm not on this board is when I being applied to this board is because I'm on too many boards to begin with.
Your wife said no.
My wife would divorce me in a second. But, not one of the boards that I'm on, baseball, softball, hockey, has ever sent anything out to any of their families as a group at the end of the season about what's been spent, what's there, what's not there. It's there if you ask for it. I've been to board meetings here with these guys as a parent and a coach to listen, and I've got paperwork from them at the board meeting saying, this is what we're talking about tonight. Here's our funds, here's the financials. And sometimes you just gotta show up if you want the information or ask for it. You know, these guys can't expect, I can't expect them to send it out to, 300 people in the program. Say, these are financials, and that's not for everybody in the world. No, if they're not required to send it out.
The point You guys have a website, right?
Yep.
Put on a website.
We're not hiding anything, we're a nonprofit, we're here to
Right,
help our
right,
kids.
they're not hiding it, they're telling you to come to the meeting.
No,
It
that's
was
what,
on
that's
the
what I'm
board
saying,
meeting, it
it's
looked like
just,
this.
it's public knowledge, whether you're, no matter what, you know what I mean?
It's a nonprofit. It's a
It might
nonprofit.
be
It's all
something
public.
that would maybe be, like a nice marketing piece to put out. But I'll echo what he says. I have a daughter in dance that has a nonprofit arm, and I have a daughter in gymnastics with a nonprofit arm, and I've never heard boo about the money. I mean, they're nonprofits. We give, fundraise, work our volunteer hours, all these things. No clue. Not that it wouldn't be nice to know. That's what I'm saying. Like
If it hasn't been done in other organizations, then it shouldn't be done.
Right.
But
And that's what I'm saying.
that's not necessarily the use of my mind.
No.
And I don't think the reason why you should be able to see them is because you have to go to a board meeting. I think being able to have the transparency at the board is critical, especially when you have potentially a multi-million dollar project like this. From a governance standpoint, I think it would behoove the board to look at that for their bylaws that they're going to be updating and make it a requirement at the end of the year or after every board meeting to post the financials or post the minutes so that if you aren't able to make it, it's available online for anyone to see.
And typically, at the end of the year, when we have our coaches meeting, our coaches picnic, and that's when we elect new board members, we go over that year's financials with the people at that meeting.
So that information would be on the meeting notes from last, was that August?
I have them here too. if you
Okay,
really
yeah, I
want.
was just,
There's nothing posted, but
I know all those were taken down.
yeah, they're all taken down, plus being a nonprofit, it's public
We did
information.
do
You said Fever Fest, so that's a major fundraiser. How come it's lost over $100,000 in the last 4 years? 3 or 4 years you haven't been doing it. So if it's a fundraiser, why are you losing money on it? Like, it makes no sense.
We have not lost $100,000.
That's what your tax records show.
Speak up, I say that in
Public information that shows you guys have lost over $100,000 in Fever Fest since you've been doing it.
Last year's profit was 37,000.
It's your tax filing, it's public net, you can go to the IRS, it's no nonprofit tax. That's not true at all. I got 48,000 in 2020, 25,000 in 2021, 46,000 in 2022. After expenses, that's what you guys made negative on Fever Fest. So,
That doesn't even make sense.
Donations.
so that information is false on IRS tax returns?
I don't know why IRS tax returns would have Fever Fest listed as a separate entity.
Because it's listed as a fundraiser for you guys.
I would have to ask our previous treasurer. That doesn't make sense to me.
That's good, that's Paul. I mean, Paul's Fever Fest concert was,
That's
I've been
Paul.
working with Paul for 5 years. He was the beginning of the concert scene, and I learned so much from Paul. 5 years ago, we started the Fever Fest idea, just to like generate money, generate funds, try to come up with some way, because you go back beyond 5 years. Some of us were in here when we made the motion to buy that land where Field 7 sits on. I made the motion to buy, to have the board purchase that land. Then we got punched in the face with COVID. So that's been a lot of delay. But Paul's huge. He got us started with the Fever Fest. It was his idea. So we jumped on board, and, first year, generating sponsors and fundraisers for bringing money in. Between Paul starting it up and getting us all on board.
I don't know any of these people, but why is this gentleman saying these numbers and everybody else is kind of?
That's what the point is, the transparency.
Where are your numbers from?
I have pulled them off the tax returns on the IRS website for nonprofit. It's all public information.
For this?
For Seymour Ball Club, yes.
Okay.
Paul ran Fever Fest, wouldn't he be the one who would have to answer where that deficit went?
Why would Paul be the one to answer that if he's a vice president of baseball?
Whoever files taxes.
But who ran?
Paul filed the
Like, if he ran
taxes?
Fever Fest.
No.
I just don't understand,
I just wanna know where the money's going. We're doing all these donations and all these fundraisers. Where's the money going? Transparency, that's all we're asking.
No, that's definitely, that's something we've got to look up, because
Yeah, I would look into it. You guys don't know where your money's going or how it's spent, or how much money you're making from fundraisers, that's a major problem. That's a huge problem.
I will tell you, the first year we lost money, it rained all day. I think we
So you
lost.
have lost money if you.
The first year,
couple years we have,
we lost money. It rained all day, the whole tournament got rained out, we had to refund all the teams, and I think we ended at 16,000 in the negative. That's a fact. We came back to the board, the entire board, the committee, and said, what do? We didn't make money. Paul was still involved at that time, and I'll tell you right now, he was the first person to speak up and say, well, you never make money the first year, you gotta go at least 2 or 3 years before you'll really see a difference.
Concerts usually don't make money, you gotta pay the acts and all that stuff.
Right.
Huge overhead for
So-
expenses.
Next year, we did it, and also the weather wasn't the greatest. I think we ended, no, second year we maybe ended 10 in the black. 2 years ago was 27,000, I think last year was 37,000, based on our Fever Fest, what we broke down. Maybe stuff didn't get put in the right place on the accounting side. I'm not the QuickBooks expert, we have a treasurer, that resigned right now to do some health things, so we are in the process of switching treasurers too, so. But that's what I can tell you from the Fever Fest perspective. Yes, what we did years ago when we talked about Fever Fest, we brought it back every year. And we said, do we wanna try it one more year? As a board, 2 years ago, we committed to trying it for 5 years. And at the 5-year mark, if we don't make money, we're done. That's this year, this is our last one before we bring it back to the community and the board and say, do we keep moving forward? Let me tell you, it is exhausting. We're there for 9 days straight getting it ready. It's great, it's amazing, the kids love it, but it's a lot of work. But the biggest piece to Fever Fest that's different from baseball tournaments, is it brings this community back together, which is what Seymour Ball Club was created in 1974. Was for the community. That is the one event we do at all, any time in the year besides our baseball stuff, that helps everybody in the community, not the ones with just their kids involved. There's a lot of people who live in Seymour whose kids or grandkids don't play here. They're not gonna just come out on a Saturday to have a burger, but they'll come to Fever Fest and enjoy some donkey ball and this and this and this. The community has loved it, it's grown. They would be really sad to see it go. That's the other piece of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying it's a bad time, it's always fun, like that's not the point. The point is, it's supposed to be a major fundraiser, you're complaining that you don't have all this money, the money doesn't exist to update bathrooms and stuff like that. Well, if you're not doing fundraisers to produce money to make these things, how's it ever gonna happen? That's kind of the point, you know, throw another tournament, throw another 2 or 3 tournaments, whatever you gotta do. You know, from softball, rec league, baseball, there's enough kids, enough teams out here that way more than 3 tournaments a year. 4 tournaments a year.
We do have to ask the town for that though. We do have an agreement with the town of what weekends we use and what months of the year we use. Now mind you, our agreement, we don't pay to play here. I want everybody to know that. That's actually pretty important. We pay $3,500 a year for our electric bill, that's it. Now, if you, Mitch, wanna come and host a tournament on a Saturday, it's $1,000 a day. So we have to, believe it or not, balance this relationship with the town, right? What's in our contract, what we're supposed to hold up our end of the bargain, what they do, keep communication open. But yes, if we're gonna book another tournament, which we absolutely positively can, we just have to ask for an additional date, which is no
That's
problem.
only 2 tournament fees, 2 teams, $500 a piece, $1,000 are paid right there for a day. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
So you can host
No,
a tournament at
we can
this
host-
field if you just pay $1,000 a day?
If the town approves it.
Which then we come back to, what's the plan for sewer, the septic,
That doesn't affect our
the
current
bathrooms,
tournaments we
like,
have every year?
that's,
That's porta potties, things like that, but,
Yeah, I wanna clarify, we don't pay $1,000, that would be like, an outside organization came in and wanted to run a tournament. Like, our $3,500 covered. Gotcha.
Yeah, you know the comment about hosting another tournament? There's only so many people that can volunteer so many hours. And every tournament you add on, the same people are there at that tournament. So, I can speak from experience being on the board for 18, 20 years. I was out here every tournament, all day long, every day, and every time they hosted another tournament, and that meant another weekend away from my family. Hopefully they were at least playing in it, so I could watch them. coach them. But it's not as easy to say, oh, we wanna host another tournament, because you gotta come up with people to cover everything. And you gotta be able to find the umpires, and you gotta be able to find motels, and you gotta be able to find all the other stuff that goes with it. So it isn't as easy to say, hey, we're gonna pick this weekend after, because that's not how it works. There's a lot of work and a lot of, you don't wanna step on somebody else's program. Say, if we try to host this, and I'm not picking on anybody, I would say Ashland, because that's where I'm from. I wanna host this, if I'm living next to Ashland, host the tournament on the same weekend they're hosting one, if I'm 20 miles away. Because now I just took away half the motel and everything else.
I don't think anybody's arguing with that tournaments are a lot of work, being on the Stars Committee, they're a shitload of work. But I think where we're all trying to get with this is if we've known that there's bathroom issues, and now that the bathroom issues are brought up every time there's a tournament, and there's funding that is being raised through concession stands and registrations and sponsorships from local businesses and Feverfest, and we've known this for years, that this was a point of contention for anything growth in Seymour. Why is there no money and why is there no plan for it? I think that's the transparency that all of us want. And if you can answer that, great. If you have to go back and look at financials and get back to us, I think we would all appreciate seeing that, seeing where the money is, and seeing, like, I'm sure there's local businesses over in here that are spending thousands of dollars to sponsor a field or sponsor a team. Where's that money going? And if we don't have any money to even get it started, whether it be the well or the septic project, and not do it all at once, but if we've known for years, pick it apart. Like, I think that's the biggest transparency issue I'm seeing, and I have a feeling there's more people out here that feel the same way.
And I have no issues with sharing financials if you guys wanna see. We can definitely get that put together.
We appreciate that.
Right now, we just don't have the money in account to build bathrooms. We're working on a plan to get there. I have bids coming to give us a dollar value where we need to be, so we can work towards that. And then we'll look at writing the DNR grant once we have that built up. You know, if we can get 200,000 in the bank, then we can write the DNR grant and get the matching 200 grand.
Do you have a budget for the program as a whole to show what you're spending yearly versus what you're saving in place?
This board has never really had a tight-knit budget, no. It's, if you're gonna go out and spend $5,000 on jerseys or whatever, you come to the board and we look at our financials and we approve it, or disapprove it.
Okay.
So, I think a lot of enumerating about what was happening in the past. I think what I would love clarity on, and what I think the board should be dedicated towards right now, is the future governance of what we have right now. And I think there's been a lot of really good points brought up that I think are pretty significant gaps in what's been done in the past. The fact that we don't have a budget is alarming. That needs to be codified in whatever the future governance is for the board to have a budget every year. I think there needs to be.
Can you speak up? We're having some trouble
I
with
think
it.
there needs to be term limits on how people transition on and off the board, and what those limits are, and what those roles are, and is the board the right number of people? It seems like there's a lot of people on the board, probably too many. I just think that there needs to be a focus plan that needs to be delivered by the board as it stands today for how this is going to be run going forward, given that we have a governance that was written 30 years before. Like, it needs to be modernized. And then we also need a plan for all these things that have been just brought up, which is how are we gonna fix the bathrooms, what's gonna be done with the dirt field that's currently field 7. These are all answers that need to be given to us throughout the course of the year, because there's tons of questions being floated around right now around the strength of this organization and what is happening outside of the organization. That if we wanna maintain that strength, that I think we've only been part of it for a couple of years, and I've loved it so far. It needs to be reformulated and grown from here, and I just think the board should dedicate themselves to that. So,
We're in part of that process of rewriting bylaws.
so is there a timeline for when you guys are gonna be finishing that, and how you can deliver that to the community?
Or April 20th, I mean,
April 21st.
The
My personal opinion is our bylaws still need a little bit of work. We turned an 8-page bylaw into a 38-page bylaw, and every single position description and everything else is in there. If you know anything about bylaws, and you're gonna present them to everybody, that means every time we wanna change a title, or maybe we don't need a facilities coordinator, we need a marketing person, we need this, then we have to come back to you guys to read this 38-page document. We can have operating procedures, and we can have a constitution and a bylaws, is how it should be done. We did do some of that work as a board, we've all reviewed it, we reviewed it twice. My personal opinion is it needs to go through an attorney as well and have a neutral party look at it, put the right statutes in, make sure it's done correctly. While we're gonna have to spend a little money on that, unless any of you are an attorney, we would welcome your experience. But that is our first priority. It's supposed to be done by April 21st, but then at that point, like I said, we're gonna want it looked over by an attorney. So that is top priority.
And we have talked to an attorney about it, so I'm sure you'll should go up.
Yeah, there's one ship when they're running it clear, they're both ready.
We're working toward that.
The other piece of this, and I'm sorry. I guess my big thing is, please remember, right, every year we have elections, and every year we ask who wants to join the board, and now I'm sure nobody does. Let's be honest. We're all volunteers, right? So every time we have a different volunteer, they bring in different skill sets. You know, Shasta joined our board, and she is an amazing spreadsheet worker that I couldn't do for the life of me. Unfortunately, we haven't had an accountant join the board. We haven't had somebody that writes bylaws for a living join the board. We don't have a person that's like, hey, I'm a CPA and I want to do all the bookkeeping. Everything's here is volunteer. Nobody's paid. So unfortunately, you kind of get stuck with me, just kidding, but people that bring whatever expertise they have to the fence, right? I welcome any of you in this room truly. If you have experience in something that you can add and bring value to this, jump on board. Like, we have the best interests at heart, right? And we would love to work with you if you have that experience. Travis is a mason. Brett's a plumber. When I asked them to write bylaws, they're like, I don't know what to do. We're trying, I guess, is the most compassionate way I can say that. Sorry, Shasta.
I'm not trying to shift, but I am going to shift to some questions I had on with the departure of Paul and Todd and our upcoming tournaments that we have planned to host for baseball. Who is planning on filling the shoes of the tournament director and going to be running the show that weekend, both weekends?
We're working on filling those holes. If it has to be, it'll be me, Travis, and Jason.
Okay. And then two, is there any plan to give our committee back the treasurer point? So if we do want to register for a tournament, say me or somebody can do that. We don't have to try to, I know you have a lot on your plate, but can we get our purchasing power back?
Absolutely.
So that we can sign up for the tournaments that people are waiting for? Because I don't mind doing it.
Right.
And I know you guys have a million things on your plate, so every time we have to send an email saying, hey, can you buy us this? Hey, can we get that? You know, this team needs a wagon, this team needs a jersey, this team needs 2 tournaments signed up for. That's a lot. So those
Trust
are my
me,
2 questions.
I would rather have less to do.
No.
No, I have no issues with that, Shasta. We obviously gave the Flames treasurer a card, the new concessions lady a card. Paul came and got the card for you guys.
Okay.
So when he resigned, to protect the ball club, I shut the card off. That's what I do with anybody that has a card in this ball program when they leave the program.
Yeah.
So reach out to me, we'll set up a time with RCU.
It doesn't have to be me, I just know that we don't have a person on our committee that can do that stuff. And so it's been kind of a burden for everybody to hunt that down, so.
For the time being, we'll fill the hole and we'll get stuff paid for and until we can get you started.
And then back to the tournaments, I'm sorry, so you plan on being there as the director and all of that stuff, because last year Katie spent and I spent over 15 hours in concessions along with parents working. I can't do that this year. I cannot be in there 15 hours. And so my point was, as when I was on the board, I asked for more board participation in the tournaments and concessions. So we don't have 2 people, 3 people, staff, you and the board, I would like to see a meeting where we can come up with a game plan on who's running what and when, so it's not a burden on 2, 3, 4 people that have to spend 20-hour days in concessions or just running around the field like kicking with the heck out. So, because I still wanna see my kid play.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think our board will also step in. We have to, that's who usually gets stuck with it, you know, so.
So I want to explain who I am too. I'm Kim Knudsen. I'm on the board in Colfax baseball.
Oh, welcome.
My son plays on Falls team. We've enjoyed our time here at Seymour. It's been awesome. And I totally support and still support Seymour Ball Club. We just added 2 more Colfax players to the 11 Black Stars. I recommended them to still come here even after this. We went from 2 Colfax teams last year. I just registered 5 this year. So I'm not against Seymour Ball Club. I'm really disappointed in how this eroded so badly and was so avoidable, and that I don't think the board realizes the impact that you put a coach out, you just put a team, parents, kids that are bonded, that all enjoy playing here. There's consequences to what you do. So there has to be some civil, you gotta be civil on the board. I hear Paul said something that irritated somebody, and then now, if I'm hearing it right, because of that, you decided to vote and remove them.
Paul resigned.
No, you said after a blow up that then you decided to take a vote to remove both of them.
I did.
I have not heard one thing that Todd Barnard has done to deserve that, so I guess I'd like clarification on that. And if this blow up is what created this, why did we already have pre-printed ballots in our pocket before that? Somebody brought ballots to the meeting to do this. So it wasn't because of something that transpired at that board meeting, it's something else, but you're not telling me.
I have had.
We need to be
I have
transparent.
had stuff, and I've had this in the back of my mind. I've been fighting with this for 2 months. Okay, this is not something that happened overnight.
Okay, but
This
how
is
are you gonna
continued to
present it?
build. This is not the first time we've had blow-ups with Paul. I can tell you it's been a dozen times that I've questioned Paul on something, and he blows up and throws a fit and screams at me and says he's gonna quit. It's not something new that has happened. On the Todd thing, there was a lot of behind the scenes type of stuff that was going on, going over my head, around me. It just continued. And then we bring it up, and it was, we'll have to agree to disagree. We'll have to agree to disagree. There was never.
I'm gonna speak to that just a little bit, because I actually don't even think I know Todd. I don't know that I've ever actually met him. He was not at our meeting when we had a full meeting with the town board and the Seymour Ball Club, but Paul was there. And when that meeting, how that meeting went was basically, look, we wanted to reiterate the priorities of the town, which was to, the well, the septic, the bathrooms. And at that meeting, and you have to understand too, not everyone on this board agrees, and not everyone on our board all agrees, so I'm gonna say it like that. What the board brought forward was no more work on Field 7 until we see a plan of what you're gonna do for the rest of our priorities, because that had always been the priority, but it got lost. And I think I heard the board kind of say, you know what, they messed up. It never should have been voted on the way it did, and they were sold on it. And I hear that same thing. And that's kind of, so at that point we had that meeting, and it was like, look, Field 7's there. I feel like you're gonna pull it out. It is what it is. But look, now today we're telling you, going forward, we don't want to hear anything about Field 7, until you show us a plan. What is your plan? What is your budget? What are the numbers? What is the plan? on the rest of these priorities. And the very next day, 2 days later, Todd is moving forward with Field 7. And
What do you mean by moving forward?
So where was Field 7 at? Where was Field 7 at in its creation at that point?
at that
'Cause
point,
right now, it's on the cusp of being one of the most beautiful
yes.
high school
Yeah,
level baseball fields in the area. I thought I'm speaking. You all right? Go ahead at the table.
I'm okay. Okay, I'm fine.
Muttered and scoffed a lot.
It's your turn.
And I played a lot. It's potentially one of the most beautiful fields settings in the Chippewa Valley. So at what point was it in its getting to that point did this happen?
So, to be honest, I couldn't tell you exactly because I don't go out in the fields. But what I know is that there was some fencing that was already installed. There was not dugouts, and that was the biggest piece, is that there weren't to be any dugouts or anything else done. They're just basically pause at that point. And then 2 days later, Todd went out and had a meeting with a well guy, but it was just him and the well guy. So our grounds guy wasn't out there, he was not a part of the meeting. You know, he wanted to understand where the well was at, all of that. But that really should have involved the town. So that meeting took place, and then the well guy called our grounds guy, almost kind of like assuming like we knew about it, but we didn't know this meeting took place. It was very confusing. And then of course I'm getting the calls like, what is going on? We literally just had this meeting and said, pause. And now we're trying to, the well guy made a comment like, well, now greener grass is coming out to set up irrigation, and they're coming out on Friday. We're like, what is going on, right? So when you give a direction or directive at a meeting to say no more work, and then all of a sudden you hear the well guys out there and they're talking about whether or not they can put in irrigation and greener grass is coming, and then somewhere in there somebody mentioned, because then the fence guys came to like just fix where the fence, like the level of it, so it wasn't doing fence work. But they mentioned they were coming back in 2 weeks to put in the dugouts, and we're like, what is going on?
So is this an October conversation or a February
This
can you give us an idea?
Yeah, this is like a few weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So like we had this meeting, and literally days later, we're getting all of this, and everyone's like, what is going on? And did he not understand what we said?
Well, didn't you say that, not to interrupt you, didn't you say you wanted a business plan going forward to see how it was all gonna work? So could he possibly have been getting bids to see how the plan was gonna come together that he could have been presenting to you and the board?
Yes.
To make this project come together?
Yes, 100%, yes, that is true. But the communication of the whole thing was not there. That was the piece that was missing, because we said, we need to know what's going on. And it was like, again, there was miscommunication, which we didn't know at the time, but we had said no more work. But then you have the fence guys telling our grounds guy that they're coming back in 2 weeks to put in dugouts. Todd never told the fence company that that was not happening anymore.
So let me understand. When Woody wasn't able to tell you that Field 7 has been approved and Diggers called you, right? Hotline. He didn't have enough time to communicate that to you, right? 2 days. But now you expect Todd in those 2 days when he's out with illness to communicate, hey, I forgot about this appointment.
No.
They are supposed to
Right, no,
come
that's what I'm
survey
saying,
the
is that,
fence to
so
be
it
lowered.
all was, in the end, it all was, like, it blew up, really, and then it was like, okay, wait a minute, this was not, right? So like, the fence guy didn't know because he was sick and he was out of town and blah, blah, blah.
So, question, Todd wasn't at the meeting,
No.
correct? So how
He
did
was
Todd
ill.
know? Did someone tell Todd that it
There
was
were,
stopped?
there were meeting notes that were sent out the next day.
But we don't all get all those meeting notes. I never got those.
And I also sent an email to the whole board nothing to be done on field 7 until the town approves us to go out there. At that point, Todd emailed me back.
That came out after.
No, it did not.
Well, I didn't.
At that point, Todd emailed me back and said, I have this, and this going on, and I forwarded it straight to Jessica.
A meeting with the town.
And at that point, while I was waiting for her to reply to me, to give him an answer, because she was at work, and I was in the Dells at a trade show, one of the other town board members calls me and says, what is going on here? Why is a fence coming in?
So my question is, was irrigation plan to be put in, or was it just a bid?
I believe
They were
it's
getting a bid.
Okay, so that's
And we-
very different
It
than
is.
being put in.
It is, and that's what I'm saying though, is that the communication just wasn't good.
So they need to communicate they're getting a bid?
You
No,
wanted a plan, and you was trying to get a plan.
but
Now you're
what
changing
does
it.
irrigation, I'm sorry, but what does irrigation on field 7 have to do with putting together a plan, which is what we gave them the directive? We want a plan on septic, a well, and bathrooms.
Well, it's been back to that.
No, but then the other thing too is that then, then he had a meeting, and this is what I'm saying. It's lack of communication, but it's also, how many times are you gonna just kind of keep pushing? And that's exactly what, when you guys ask, like, what was the issue? I see it too. It's this, okay, but. Well, okay, but, and then push it. And so let me finish. And so that's what kept happening, and then there wasn't enough communication, and it just eroded. And so I'm not actually on anybody's side one way or another. We're sitting here as the town board looking at this going, okay, we gave a directive, and it was like, okay, but we're gonna keep doing this. And you could argue that he met with the well guy because he was making a plan on the well, but our town wasn't involved in that conversation. So then it becomes like, oh, well, the well guy said it was fine. That's what came out of it. Well, the well guy said it was fine, so we're gonna keep moving
Was
forward.
that
Now
his
we're gonna
official
get a
proposal that
bid
he
because
gave you?
he said, because the well guy, we didn't vet who the well guy was. We didn't know anything about this. He said that it was fine, and so then he decided on his own to push for getting a bid from Greener Grass on his own. So
Just getting a bid.
it doesn't matter though, because again,
That was his.
why is that?
You have to understand the flow of the irrigation system to
Oh,
understand.
we do.
Yes, so he has to have a bid to know how many heads, how many feet are going to go into that field to
Right.
then present to you his
Okay,
plan,
again,
right?
I'm not gonna say that I 100% agree with exactly how the directive was given to the board. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to be very clear here. But the Seymour board gave a directive that said nothing else on field 7, period.
Without a
That was
plan.
it.
Without a
Without
plan.
a plan.
Without a plan.
That was the directive, and that's that's where, now I have my board members going, shut this down, no. And so that's the part that I think has to be really, really clear. Whether any of us like it or agree or understand that, you know what, you have a beautiful field out here that needs irrigation or you're gonna have nothing out there, like, I think you all know that. And if, you know, I don't know how I say this, right? Like, we don't all agree. And so, yes.
I think the point is the township owns the land. So like that's, I think, like, it's not the ball club that owns the land.
Yeah,
So
and
the township has residents, so the township also has to protect the land. Like, that's where some of that conflict is.
How long has the township known about the well and the bathroom issue? How many years back?
I've been on the board for 4 years, so.
So
Wow.
you've known it well for 4 years?
Yep.
You brought it up to him?
Well, he brought it up to me. He's
Why
one
did
who
the
told me.
township bring it up to this board?
I don't,
Because they're the ones
you
that
know
are
what, we had a
paying for it.
town chair out here for 38 years
No,
until
trust me,
I
know
ran
he
against
complained
him.
about the paint
So
down the road.
I don't know that many people knew much. And I came in totally blind. I mean, I'm no offense, but I came in and had to learn everything over the course of the last 4 years. So asking me what I know and why I didn't know, I mean, does
What I'm
anyone
trying
else
to
know?
get at is this is an ongoing problem between both the board and the township.
Well,
With-
yes,
with
but
this
there was
here.
always, I believe the message was always clear that that was always the point. When Jason and I first met and talked about the ball club, and honestly, I think the first meeting, he just wanted to know if I was gonna be like a friend of the ball club, or if I was gonna be like the former chair that could have cared less if the ball club existed, right? And I'm like, well, no, my kids play out here, I love the ball club, I think it's great, like, how would we work together? So, he informed me of, hey, we got, these are the issues, and I'm like, yeah, I agree, no one wants to be in those bathrooms, they're horrible. They're like, they're the worst, right? And I only came at it from a parent perspective, having been out here, going, yeah, I would agree, like, they're not the best, and we need to do more, and I've worked in the concession stand in, 500-degree heat and thinking that we're gonna die. So I was like, yeah, like, let's do stuff, right? So that was very early on. Yeah, that we talked about that. But then it was, okay, so we want to do this thing called Fever Fest. Like, what do you guys think? And we're like, okay, like, seems like a good idea. And it was, in my understanding, kind of where we've been hands off for the last few years, is that they've been working the plan and trying to make enough money. And that's why I think the Field 7 surprised us, because that was kind of the same thing. We're like, wait a minute, why are you spending money on that? We thought you were saving money for this over here.
That's my point is, the township knew this issue, and it's never been fully communicated until 6 weeks ago? Or
I think that's
back
what
in
they're saying,
October?
though. They're saying there was a breakdown in communication.
There was a breakdown in communication.
Across the board.
What I'm saying is, it's not just since October, September, this is going back years. That I think that the township should have communicated to the board, previous boards, whatever, that, hey, if you wanna do upgrades, this is where we need to start. You don't put the cart ahead of the horse.
Should be a comprehensive plan.
So, but the other thing that was just brought up is that the township owns the fields, correct?
Correct.
And that if anybody wants to come in and use them, they have to pay the township. Correct? Does the Seymour Ball Club see any of that money?
No.
So what is the township, how much money are they putting into these bathrooms on their grounds that are not up to par?
I think the township should be able to.
Right now, the township don't have the money.
So,
Well, the township will be applying for grants, because any of those grants that have been discussed actually needed to be written through the town, but that we were not aware of that either.
but see, that's where we're talking out of both sides of our mouth now, is that it's all the ball club's problem, and then you guys stop the work because it's your land, but you've known about the problem for 30 years, and we haven't put together a plan. I know it's not you.
Board
Correct,
stopped
it is.
the work because there was a,
You're a representative of the board, so you will. be
yeah,
part of it.
and what I'll say is that there had been comments made.
And my question's rhetorical on that, I just wanna throw that out.
Yeah, I would say
I don't think you
that,
can commentate on it.
I don't know, like, it was one of these where it had been long overdue to have a joint meeting. And at that meeting, I think we all recognized that, boy, we should have had this meeting like 4 years ago, right? And it was long overdue, and it was a good meeting to have ultimately, but should have happened. Actually, it should be an annual meeting, is what it should be.
Barrett?
You put the brakes on, and said no more work out there. How long did we anticipate we're gonna take to get a plan for bathrooms that we've known about for 10 years, 20 years? I can't fault Todd from having a sense of urgency that his son is gonna play on that field hopefully this year. But if we hold back, a 90% complete field because we're waiting on a plan that hasn't been formulated over 10 years, he's just trying to get the job done.
Right, and
we're kicking a guy for
wish-
really
Yeah,
going
what I
above his
wish
job
I would
trying to
have
get this
been
done.
able to see
She's pretty
happen,
petty.
right, but what I wish I could have seen happen was taking a week, 2 weeks, and really focus on, and I know that Jason and a few others did put some numbers together on that particular piece.
You have to get a bid to get
I was
numbers.
really, really hoping that there would be kind of an immediate focus on that pretty quick, because all I wanted to see was a plan. so that I can bring that to my board and be like, look, a plan. So
Wasn't
that then,
this fella trying to get bids for the plan? I mean, when you come up with a plan.
The work,
to
no,
town-
the work that was happening, no, that was not for, the dugouts were already had a bid. They just came out to fix something and said, I'll be back in 2 weeks to do the dugout that we had to bid, but never told the town, they never told Jason. That's what I'm saying, it never came here, it never came there. So, that's, then there was
I
one over
feel like
there.
we've been beating a dead horse for an hour and a half, and I just wanna know what the plan is moving forward. I know that I got an email this week that he no longer has a coach,
We're fixing it.
so I'm just wondering where we're at with that. I understand you guys have a lot on your plates right now and you are volunteers. Just curious what we're gonna do moving forward, and if there's things that we can do as parents that can help.
Essentially,
what team?
What?
You guys have coach.
Thank you,
we've been working on it.
thank you.
Also,
I would not
stuff-
make a good coach whatsoever,
We need
but
everybody.
I can help with whatever.
I think the other big problem, and just to give you a point of clarification for everybody here, we're not interested in airing dirty laundry and the bad things that have happened, but there was a reason that they were voted out, right? Failure to communicate, failure to helping with things, withholding information. We've asked them to put information to a Google Drive. They asked us to build 3 years ago, and they don't put it out there, because they're like, I'm not sharing with you guys, you haven't been nice to me. That's the reality. Todd, while he resigned, and I'm sad, I'm telling you, I know everybody thinks that I hate Todd. He was my brother Chris's best friend from the time I was 5 years old until then, right? I don't hate him. He also scrubbed our website, took everything down. Our Google Drive's empty. Feverfest committee, which I'm a part of, the drive's gone. Like, everything's missing.
That's insubordination from the board member.
He was already resigned if they actually did that.
It is scrubbed back to like what you just started Crossbar, and I asked 2 different networking.
Google Drive is not empty, there's documents in there from last.
Google Drive, yes, but then everybody's access was linked, Martella.
No, it's not, there's 14 people with access, people just don't have the link. Cassie's gathering a list for me, because he put me down as manager, all the stuff is there, there's old stuff. I think Stars is in a different place, but we're accusing him of scrubbing stuff that he didn't do. My access never went away, everything is still there.
Okay, but mine did.
You were on it, Krista asked for access too, and she was still on it, you guys just didn't have the link.
No, my link didn't work. I actually have screenshots showing that it doesn't have access to the link.
I promise you,
Okay,
that's
let's
all
not
that
stand on it.
but it's not accusing of stuff that's not true.
I mean, if you're gonna accuse somebody of scrubbing that, like, can't we just pick up the phone and call Todd and say, hey, can I have this file, or where can I find this? And if he says, you know, forget it, I'm not gonna give it to you, then you can come back and we can say like, all right, Todd's not giving us this information, but to sit here and it sounds to me like we need to do a little more homework, or just pick up a phone and call people. I feel like this whole thing like is backing up a little bit. This whole thing, I think you could have gotten a couple people in the room and just said, hey, let's talk this out. What do we got to do? And the whole thing just blew up. There was a perfect storm. There was miscommunication. There was misinterpretation. There was a lot of things that just kind of fell apart. And I think it's really unfortunate, because I think that Paul, Todd, you guys, everybody that's on the board, all has that great spirit for like the sport, the kids, and like, you know, like we're all trying to do the right thing, and just to see this like kind of crumble like that, I think kind of sucks, right? But my point to this is just, I wish that we just pick up a phone sometimes and just be like, hey, what's going on here? Like, why do we have to just let this go? I mean, I bet you I could probably go outside right now and call Paul, or I could call Todd and get this information that you're asking about, if that's the case. I just don't feel like we need to like, you know, I just feel like just pick up the phone and let's communicate a little bit. Is kind of my point to that, and just I think it'll clarify a lot of things that are going on right now.
At some point, everybody's gonna have to just like let it go and move on.
And that's kind of why I want to do this and get it out so we can put this past us.
Yeah.
They both resigned, they're gone, we're moving forward with the season.
There's somebody over there with their hand up.
I got 2 things.
Yeah, what? Go ahead.
I got 2 things. First and foremost, these board meetings, any meeting can get heated. You guys have the rule of thumb that you can agree to disagree, you put it under a pocket for 24 to 48 hours, and then you readdress it at that point in time. Because I know that is in like every single school sport, most traveling sports, that you got an issue with your kid's coach, you wait. You don't want something for a traveling weekend, you wait till middle of the week to cool down and you talk it through. Are you guys doing that at me?
Typically,
Be honest, just be honest, yes or no?
for the most part, we'll table stuff.
Okay. My second thing is, I've been reading a lot of that alcohol is involved at meetings. Alcohol is involved at these tournaments. Why is so much alcohol involved in this stuff? I get it. I have a beverage here and there too. But I don't think that we need to have these beverages with the coach's jersey on when our kids are out there to play. You wanna do it at the end of the day when you're done coaching? Fantastic. But I don't think that our coaches need to be drinking in the morning, coaching a game at 11, 12, and having more beer. And don't tell me that it doesn't happen. Because I've seen it happen more than once, and more at just these tournaments.
I've never said it does not happen.
Why is it happening? Why is
All of
that
our
not a
coaches
rule?
have been told they're not to drink while they're coaching.
Okay, so we know that it's happening. Why are you, as the president, not going? I don't know if you're going to. Coach Jay here. Why are you drinking while your kids are still having games? Why are you not addressing it?
Nobody has ever brought up to me that coaches were drinking or that they had a problem. Okay, I can't be here for every single day, every single tournament, and babysit everybody here.
Why should they have to though? I mean, we're all adults.
Usually running around. But it sets kind of a bad example for these kids, and you need, like I said, things can get heated. You had alcohol in the situation, you're adding gas to the fire. Especially if there's a bad call or something like that, and the coach gets out of line. Then what? Are you gonna have a conversation with the coach, or are you just gonna say, oh, you drink?
Alcohol makes money, it's what makes money.
I'm not saying it's not about the I'm saying coaches don't need to be drinking prior to the game. That is what I'm saying.
It's in the code of conduct, isn't it?
It is in the code of conduct, I believe,
It's never
so.
been brought up, so it shouldn't get brought up now.
It's
It has
not.
nothing to do with
Right.
it.
Tyler, oh, no, go ahead, you first.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We joined it during fall ball, had never been on the league before. Our son had never played baseball before, and we were made head coach of this team. Never, ever, ever, ever during the league. Hank Freeman has 17 years of baseball experience. There was no background check done on him. There was no history to find out if he had ever even played baseball, let alone coached baseball. And the assistant coach on our team also did not volunteer to be made coach and was an assistant coach. I have a question, and honestly, we got such a bad taste in our mouth during fall ball, but wanted to give spring ball another chance because my son had so much fun. Even though we were a team of kids that had never played together, playing against travel teams constantly, losing 30 points to maybe 2. What is going to be done in the future with that? Like, the organization obviously was not new during fall ball. The communication was not good at fall ball. So this isn't just a new thing of bad communication. I have never been new, and I knew that within 10 minutes of joining. So what is being done to change that? And how can we have any faith going forward that that is actually going to change? Because I said to my son, we're going to give it one more shot. We're going to give it one more shot with this league. And then within like a couple of weeks of signing him up for baseball, and I got it for softball, we get this, that this is going down. So I want to have faith in the league, but honestly, it's like kind of the worst taste ever. And at this point, it's too late to pull him out and go anywhere else. And I have this 12-year-old who's just so excited to play baseball. So what can I get from you moving forward? That this is actually going to be better. That the communication is going to be better with not only the board, but with the families and people joining and putting our hard-earned money into this city. So do you have a plan for that moving forward, or is anything going to change?
I mean, we communicate all the time. Fall ball is run by Stars and Flames.
So
That's
the
not run
travel
by
teams
this.
take precedence over the other two, correct teams?
No.
Not supposed to.
Fall ball is run by them as a fundraiser. That's the way it's always been out here for the travel program. They run fall ball.
So do the coaches have background checks done on them before they work with all the kids?
For all of our coaches?
Yeah, when you put someone like
No.
my husband in charge who you've never even met before, don't know from Adam.
Huh?
Don't you want to see that on? Dude, not,
That's
you're
not
not asked.
It's not a background check.
No, we do not do full background checks. We've discussed it numerous times.
So you have coaches working with children
Right,
and you
it's a
don't
risk.
have background checks on.
It's not.
It's something moving forward, yes. Yeah,
So that should be
I
added
reached
to
out.
the bylaws.
You know who your coach is, right, going into it?
I do now, because
So
it's my
you can
husband.
look up the CCAP on that coach's name if you want to, get that information, and decide if you wanna put your kid out there or not, because you're showing up there as an adult, and you're bringing that kid to that field, I mean, that's on you, if you decide to leave your kid there as well. Like, I don't feel like we need to beat a horse over this right now. Sorry to be short, but it's 7:30 here, and that's an issue that's not part of what this meeting was for.
And if you had an issue, you should have brought it to the board back then, in my opinion.
We
That's
can,
between you and the board.
No, his problem was communication.
But then you could have communicated to the board your concerns.
so
Communication's on both
Wait,
ends.
wait, let's not get
we
heated.
will work on
Now,
you're getting better.
Communication with the board going forward will be like if the problem that made this whole thing unravel was communication in the first place. I'm just wondering if there's a plan in place so that they can all.
Yes.
I kind of ran it.
Yeah,
with
okay.
Paul, and,
Yep.
so fall ball is a joint effort with the Eau Claire Nationals. It is in a very short turnaround time. They begin all the registrations probably within 3 to 4 weeks. We try to build the teams, the schedule, everything, very, very, very fast. We split all the effort with the Eau Claire Nationals, so this year, we split it up, somebody on their side said, okay, we'll make the teams, we'll send it over, we approve it, we send it out. What we do it off of is a spreadsheet that we download from the registration, so somewhere it must have gotten filtered incorrectly, saying that you guys wanted to be a parent coach or something, the field got misaligned or something. That truly was a mistake. That does not happen. We're not just willy-nilly picking parents to coach teams. I'm sorry that it happened to you, but that's just not the thing. A mistake was made, and I apologize, even though I'm not the one that made it, but it happens. We're humans trying to do a crap ton of work in a very short amount of time. For fall balls. For spring ball, we have more time to try to do schedules and things like that, but it's still a very short turnaround time of us trying to get parents that want to coach. We're trying to figure out, okay, we have 30 kids, how many teams do we need to make? And how many kids do we need to try to find to fill this team? And how many sponsors do we need? How many extra jerseys do we need to order? And all of these people are trying to work together to get this all done. Mistakes are gonna happen, we're just humans. And so I do apologize for the communication, but it was a joint effort with the national, so I don't think you can blame just Seymour. We were kind of the parents that we put it in our system because we had a better registration system, but I'm not gonna say that it was just on us for fall ball, the mistakes that were made, so, and, I think it was like 3 weeks we had to get everything out and loaded, get, volunteer shifts for, people to run concessions in both places, we had to get, field approved times, for everything going for weekends and make sure that we had enough jerseys even in a week. We had 1 week to order jerseys and get them to you guys. So just the fact that everybody ended up with a shirt is a miracle in my opinion. So,
Keep in mind, like, we are in business, this is the only league for fall ball in the area, so there's 400 kids.
yeah, it's big. Yeah. So we tried, and that's
My question, I guess, was, you had mentioned that, like, you thought a grant was being filled, and it wasn't. I'm just wondering, like, is there a plan to improve communication, or to have, that's my question, I guess.
oh yeah, it's definitely.
We are constantly
Like,
working.
I can't even come in and it's volunteer, and I appreciate the work you put in.
Is the board meeting schedule posted somewhere?
Well, we had an issue about that. We were gonna actually start having open meetings and we posted it on Facebook. I don't know if you ever saw it, like 4 weeks before this big blow up. And I had Krista put a post out saying, here's our next open meeting, come. And then everybody on the board had a fit, and said, well, it should only be members, or only kids and members, and blah, blah, blah. And so, then we kind of reined it in and said, whatever. So, as an LLC, we do not have to have them.
Well, I think,
website we can.
right, and that's where I think she's leaning towards and
Yep.
what we wanna do and promote, which you said, if you have questions, you come to the board meeting and ask those questions. But if we don't know when they are, it's really difficult to do that. So if you can put that as an action item from tonight's meeting, is to either post it online, post it on the Facebook page, which there's a lot of followers on there that get their information from there. I think we'd all appreciate that. We can have our voices.
We can
more
definitely
heard.
post all of our board meetings on our calendar.
Yep, and that would be great. We appreciate that.
Jason, yeah, you had your
Jay,
hand
you've
up.
been waiting for a while.
No, I just like to say that I'm a fan of Todd's. He's motivated. I played a friend of mine, our girls wrestling together at Norton. I nominated him for a position. I voted for him. He's got drive, he's motivated. I think it was a good plan, just jumbled. I think if anybody knows Todd, he's a go-getter, he's a mover, he wants to do stuff. And I got into it with him. I mean, I was on board. Everybody wants Field 7. Everybody does. Jason's one of the first guys that's wanted it from day one. The problem is, it was advertised as what, a multi-purpose field? What decision and who made that decision? Who decided that? It's been advertised as that. So I think his motivation, you get excited, man, it's coming, it's fruition, it looks beautiful, like this guy says. It's absolutely beautiful up there. It's amazing field. And that's why I said I was on board. That's why I voted for Todd. But when you say, you're told no, just reel it in for a second, let's get a plan, and let's do it the right way. Nobody builds a field without irrigation and a well and power. That's first. So having that plan initially, like the matching grants, the key word, matching. That's when Todd lost me. I am so excited, I love the field, it's beautiful. I've been out here 18 years. I got 3 daughters that have made their way through. I've been lucky enough to have a scoreboard with my name on field 4. This place is my whole world, everything. That's why I got on with Paul. Paul motivated me for Feverfest. I learned so much from Paul. I learned so much from Todd. So our motivation here as Stars, as Flames, as League, as everybody, let's use what's the foundation to try to fix it. Try to work together, because the divisiveness, my side's better than yours, the Stars this, the Flames that, the League, we're all part of the same family out here. Okay, all of us. That's why I can't seem to freaking leave. My wife.
Can I touch on what you're saying? I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
So my wife is on the board. I've seen my wife have her greatest joys being part of this board, and I've also seen her in tears after meetings. Okay? If I'm saying something wrong, correct me, because I don't peep in on what's going on and listen. I gather information from my wife. And I don't want to offend anybody. I know what you guys do up there, including everybody, my wife too. So there's no offense being meant to be taken from this statement. But gray areas, I think, are where problems come from. Grady has a good point. Call if we have an issue. Talk now. I know Grady has offered cups of coffee, meetings with people. But the biggest thing that the issue is, what I understand is in the Seymour Ball Club, and with all due respect, the Flames and the Stars seem to kind of butt in the middle, butt heads. And then I think that's where sides are being taken. And that's where things become unfair. I'm not going to stand up here and say I support this person, that person, but I would just ask, plea almost, for the sake of being here, our kids, the memories that are being made, is going forward, maybe work on being better friends, If you put me in a room with 8 people and I had to like every one of them, that's going to be hard to do. But if I make the biggest effort I can because of
you know, we have a mission statement, I'm sure, at Seymour, right? But I think that needs to be the truth, and that's where both sides, no matter what, the butting heads, everything else, I think being honest with each other, not saying stuff behind backs. You know, these are just things I've heard from my wife. Like I've said, I told my wife, and I say this out of respect too, you need to quit the board, right? Because I can't stand seeing my wife, you know, put in a shit ton of effort, as you guys do, because you're all individuals, and I'm speaking to every one of you, for her to leave board meetings crying. She's my wife, you know? She wants to work here voluntarily, and it's so cliche to say this, guys. We're all in it for the kids. We're all in it for the kids. We all say this, but it is remaining cliche until everybody at some point has just got to come together. We could sit here for 5 more hours. I mean, I'll sit here. I'm mainly just listening, but it's just a plea, you know? Let's get the sides together and just get back to the cliche statement of they're just kids playing baseball. That's what they are, right? So that's my only plea. And I'm not standing up here saying I'd be on that board and I'd be like, hold hands with everybody. That's not what I'm getting at, right? I admit myself, you put me in a room with 8 people, am I going to like every one of them get along? Probably not, but, you know, I'm a rambler. Don't sit down.
I think we all have to act more like we're in a corporate environment and choose positive intent when we're communicating with each other. Because honestly, the way that I know we're not in a job, but if we can just all be cordial and polite and treat every single person with positive intent and respect, and you know, I wouldn't walk up to a single person and be rude to them, even if I hated them. I honestly would not, and I couldn't, because that's just not in my personality. I'm gonna hold the door open for you. I'm gonna give you a smile. We're just people, and I think we need to set the example we want our children to be. And that's the kind of child I want. I want them to assume positive intent and to be kind to people, even when we're having differences. Because that's the world. The whole world is different. Everybody's gonna have an opinion on something, and we have to do our best to try to work together and see both sides of it. So that is what I think Brian is trying to say, and we're grown-ups, so let's just try to do a better job of that.
So going forward, do we have something in our SOPs to just say, if we have a major event with any team, we're gonna communicate with that team? Because I think this was a big enough event that took place that should warrant parents being informed for the sake of their kids. And I don't care if that's Stars, Flames, rec ball. If something major happens that's gonna affect kids, I think the parents deserve to know.
So Kim, are you talking like post that meeting where this played
No.
out? Or like before that was gonna happen? I'm just,
You voted
like,
to kick
for
2
clarity.
coaches out of the program. What do the kids get
Yeah.
out of the team? You know, so if the board removes some coaches, I think the parents should know.
So,
right.
I mean, and nothing was communicated.
No, I understand.
So, leaves people in the dark.
So everybody is aware, we did say that night, you guys are still allowed to coach, we would love you to stay in the program, yada, yada, yada. We were not removing them from coaching. We were not telling them their kids couldn't play here. I would never kick a kid out of this program. Unless the kid is doing something absolutely atrocious. Okay? Grady, is Paul's daughter playing with you? The invitation's still out there for her to still play with you. We talked about it and I said, I'm not gonna tell her no. They chose to leave. I understand why they chose to leave, but we did not say they cannot coach.
Even if they leave, you know, the parents that didn't know they left, you know, they gotta get communicated by a coach that left the program. You know, the program needs to communicate to those parents. You got a team without a coach.
We were trying, I just.
So, I mean, it could be better.
Everything could get better.
Our communication on this could have been much better. I agree with you. It kind of all happened in a tailspin. And I was out of town with my daughter for softball, and then I was out of town for work for 4 days, so it's been kind of trying to fill holes when I could and get communication out when we had a chance. So yes, I think I'll take that, we should communicate better with you guys and everybody in here and the whole program. But from here forward, we're moving forward with the season, and we'll communicate, and we'll host our board meetings, and we'll work through it.
One thing we wanted to add to our website 2 years ago, I don't know if it ever happened, because I don't know if it's a limitation within Crossbar, right, because that's the entity that we use. But I know that at a meeting we approved, we wanted like a spot where people could submit anything to the board, whether they had an issue with a coach, an issue with this, an issue with that, and it never got built. I don't think it did. If it did, I don't know how well it was, but needless to say.
Well, all of our positions are on Crossbar, you can email anybody else.
Yeah, but right.
Board members, emails are on there. Just your names, that's all it's on there.
Oh, I couldn't remember one of those. It was on there. Right, right. So the emails and everything's, okay, we'll fix it. We're trying, we'll fix it.
Also,
This really makes me happy because I was the second president of the Seymour Ball Club. And if I would have called a meeting, there would have been 6, 7, 8 people besides my board. So the biggest plus I want to say, I got 2 siblings on the board, and they're doing a fantastic job. And you talk about money. I went to town board one night because we had a Babe Ruth tournament coming in, and I asked Doug Chronic, I says, can we have $80 for a porta potty on Sherman Field? And Doug Chronic said, this is kind of a joke too. Doug Chronic said, oh, we don't have no money, Woody. We don't have no money. And the secretary was at the end of the table, and she made a boo-boo, and she said, well, what about that $200 or $200,000 we just took out of the bank? And he turned red, and she turned red. So whatever they're doing, and I love what they're doing because we got Fever Fest, we got all this other stuff that raising money, and we have this many people here, and this is a great thing because we would have never had that, and so I just wanted to put that in the minutes before the meeting's done. So.
Speaking of the minutes, I want to speak to that first communication. Obviously, when all of this kind of started coming out, I got a lot of requests for the minutes. I want to speak on the timeline of those. We typically meet on Monday nights. I have 3 kids and a full-time job. I type them up over the following weekend, generally. So anybody who thinks that they weren't out there because I was trying to not be transparent, not the case. And then we usually review them at the following board meeting as a board and approve them, and that's when they're posted. They were moved more quickly this time in order to have them all out there, but just in the future, if you're looking for a meeting minute, that's kind of the timeline. So if they're not there quicker than that, it's not out of them trying to be, not disclosed to anybody, it's just that that's usually the system for getting them out.
So I was here a while ago, people cry back in the early 2000s, I was president. Pat and I were here the day we tore up the baseball field because we don't have any older boys to play. And it went on for years, probably 3 years in a row, we didn't have boys to play in the field. We also couldn't get a baseball grant to help out if our life depended on it. So we were a softball organization back then, believe it or not. So keep that in mind, right? Now you've built a baseball field, that's great, okay? Are you gonna have enough boys to play, and does it make sense? And all you dads, I'm sure, are going, I want my boy to play. And I wanted the same thing. I didn't have a boy when we tore up that field, but I got one now that plays college baseball. And he played out here until he was 12 years old. He played league when he was 12 years old. And he played stars when he was 12 years old. Okay? I've been hearing you guys don't You don't make your kids play league. Well, that's just great, okay? My kid hit 35 home runs as a 12-year-old, right? He helped me coach. We had a kid on first base, couldn't catch. He taught him how to catch every practice. That's what you do with your travel kids in league. You make them be leaders. You don't pull them out because they're too good, right? That's disturbing to me. And if that's the emotion behind all this stuff, that we're going to be D1 baseball players, these boys would win, 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 win. You got a problem. You got a big problem. League is the heart of this organization, and it always will be. And if you destroy that, you might as well dig them all up. Sorry, that's all I got.
Can I comment to that mom on her league ball? My son just started here a year and a half ago. We started out in spring. Your spring is gonna be totally different than your fall. Your kids are gonna have so many friends. And it's not about league. Their score can be 60-2. It's the friends that they're meeting along the way. Yeah, but you're also really discouraged. Right, and they're gonna be. But that's for you as a parent. You like, hey, you see the awesome play that Johnny did over there? That's just what you gotta do. And I agree with him. League ball, my kid is in travel ball, he's been in travel ball for years, but we've also made him do league ball. Because it just makes your kid grow as a person.
Yes, sir.
Name's Eric Michelson, this is my wife Amber, this is my son Brady. Signed him up a couple weeks ago. I never played baseball, never did anything like that, so if I wanted to play, set him up with a net and a tee and a bunch of balls. Really get him practicing, I got him signed up, and I don't know, this is really complicated. Seems like a lot of personalities and pride and egos, but yeah, I appreciate your servants up there, serving wherever you league or, and all I want to do is have a son play ball. So I got an email about, this other thing going on. I didn't talk to him about it. It's not stuff anyone should have to go in. Got spring cleanup tomorrow. You know what time it is? There's no time set up for it.
10 a.m. to 2.
10 a.m. Obviously, little things like that need to be worked on, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows, if they didn't want to be held accountable, they wouldn't have showed up. The people that want to be held accountable are here. So, I gotta get going. I'm gonna go get some ice cream. You guys have a good night.
Thanks for coming.
Safe clear.
I had a question, just because, I agree with that gentleman back there 100% about guys needing to be playing league ball. I've heard rumors that maybe next year, if you don't play in the CBBL, that you're not going to be allowed to play Stars or Flames. Is that true or not true?
That used to always be the.
It always was. But and I agree, you got to play league ball, but we've grown the teams, but we've grown it from, on the travel ball side, there's been a lot of growth that's been outside of the area. There's some folks that are coming from Spring Valley. They don't have an opportunity. My kids are all from Colfax. We joined the CBL, satisfy that requirement, so that's not going to affect me, but there's teams that are going to be affected that got kids playing this year that cannot play CBBL league ball, but they're going to play league ball in a different town, but play travel ball here. I think this is a great home to play travel ball. I don't know that we got to say you have to play here unless you want to keep in-house.
So
But we should be clear and pass that communication on parents too, because there's parents that have grown their kids in this program that now would have to decide to do something different.
Correct. So now, I'll comment on that. So, the rule has always been, up until last year, that to play travel ball for Stars or Flames, you had to play league in the CBBL or CBFL. Unless you were in a community that was outside of so many miles of a league community. So if you're from Black River Falls, and there's nobody in the CBBL or CBGFL from down there in this league, we can make an exception for that. That was always the way the rule was written.
And is planned to stay that way?
That if we were to reinstate that rule next year, that's the way we would write it up, yes.
With encouragement that they still play league.
Yeah, they should be playing legal. 100%. They should be. They should not just be focused on travel ball.
We had kids travel all the way down from Ashland to play the league, so they could play travel ball. So if your kid wants to play bad enough, you'll make it happen. I mean, we had 3 parents that would take trips driving their kids down to league ball so that they could play, so that they could play. Because some towns don't have the opportunity, and we get that.
Right, but then, you
gotta have rules, if not, you'll have kids coming in from every area, making up excuses, well, I can't play, I can't do it. You gotta have a rule, because it's not.
Well, it is a rule. It's saying if you play your record.
It would be that if we
League in your city, but you don't have to, you can still play with your classmates, but if you're a higher level and you wanna play travel ball, Seymour is a nice place.
Yeah, I don't think we can go back to the old hard stop. If you don't play in the league, you can't play travel, period. It's just, days are different nowadays. So if we were to put that rule back in, and that's for the board to choose, it would be with that caveat that if you're outside of a certain distance from a league team, then you would still be allowed to get a pass on that, so.
Howard?
Jay?
Yeah, I think that's, reiterating what Doug said. If you don't play, I'll give you an example. I mean, Seymour is the hub. We reach out to all these other communities. What if Osceola's got a baseball team with 8 kids on it? And Stars just cherry pick 2. And the Flames, say 14U, is looking for Black River girls that want to come play, and they're stuck now. They only have 8 kids on that team. And somewhere, say Osceola, Altamont, Menominee, wherever. Now there's 8 kids or 7 kids that can't play. You gotta play league. You have to. Either you play league or your travel ball folds. It feeds. Other communities are going to die off because kids, you're gonna get stuck with kids that are 7 kids at an age level, they don't have enough of a team together.
Right. But that's why you should be able, that one kid should be able to play his baseball in Black River. And we can travel here.
Right? Whitehall
Always
issues,
happen.
Independence issues, Black River issues. There's always exceptions. But you've gotta let these kids. He asked me one time when Gabe was little, should I bump him up? I said, absolutely not. Why? He just told you. This kid was one of the biggest leaders and helped other kids progress. You let leaders be leaders and they play league and they help with other kids that play the game. And so you're able to reach out to other communities. It's really about building the whole community, not just here. Because your Stars are gonna be gone. We are not VSA. We're not. We're not Turn 2. And Turn 2 is run by one of my friends, Jesse, who's gonna be holding a coaching clinic tomorrow for coaches. We don't pay $3,500, $4,000, $5,000. What do we pay?
$375 per star.
$375.
Or maybe 400.
It's crazy. That is absolutely crazy for travel ball. And to say that we're not gonna help support them, it's crazy.
Well, can I take a second to, if it's about the kids, and I understand this baseball is a community. I reach out to many of the other leagues within the area. I've had conversations over the past week with almost every league in the area. To your point that this is about the kids, if you have a kid in another league that did not make their travel ball program, plays in their league program, but the Stars have an opening, which we did several times this year within the Stars program, are we gonna deny that kid extra baseball doing what they love because they don't play league here?
That's one of the exceptions, right? That's what we
But
want.
what if it's nationals, what if it's Tally, what if it's another program within?
But they gotta be able to play. Are they playing? We've already heard some issues with some kids on some teams that are struggling to catch a ball, field a ball, hit a ball. We have to be smart so these kids don't get hurt.
But you can't get better unless you play more baseball, right?
To a certain extent, right? I mean,
Well,
we can say.
But now you're putting them into a box already. The kid that is not, can't catch a ball at 8, may be one of the best kids you have in high school. But if you gave up on him at 8 because he couldn't catch a ball on a travel team, how is that fair?
I've been there. We've put
And I've
together-
been there
we've
too.
been-
I've got some kids that I played, coached in T-ball that I went, holy crap, what am I doing? And now I have him in my minors team and I'm like, he's bad at the top of lineup. But that, I think we need to be careful with that rule, because if it is about the kids, which we've all been part of, and the cliche part of it, I think we need to look at that. And my son, I'll be very honest, is one of the kids that does not play league in Seymour, but he did not make the travel ball team within his home organization. But he found a home here. I've got more star stuff than I care to admit at this point, and I'm an advocate within my league for that stars program. We pulled several kids to a stars program that want to play baseball because Seymour is open to that. And I don't want us to get so close-minded that we need to limit those kids that want to play baseball because they do not play baseball here, because they have friends, like their fall ball kids and their spring kids, in other leagues, but they don't have the opportunity. So I just want to leave everybody with that, like I think we
And that's
need to
something
look
we'll
at that.
take into consideration if we do.
But the
look at
problem
going
too
back
is you
to
gotta make sure that the people that are playing in our league are getting first opportunities.
Certainly.
Because if you can't field a team and you need to go get somebody, great, but if you have a kid that's playing in, I don't know, Elk Mountain, but they're in the league, and it's somebody from, I don't know, Black River wants to come over and play, you can't be bumping our players to fill your team.
Well, and if any of you know Paul, who built this program, we had a 10U team, the second 10U team, I think, had 4 kids on it. They're a full team because he went out and got kids. We went out and got kids. So it's the idea that we're kicking kids out and not letting them play is not the narrative whatsoever, and I just want to be clear on that.
No, and I'm not saying he did, but just in case it happens in the future.
Yep, and that's
you can't
something
say,
that
well,
can be
this
put
kid's
into
from-
consideration.
Recruit a team so you can win. That's not what the travel ball is about. It's to win with your programs.
Yeah.
Not just go, oh, there's a kid superior that's really good, I want to give him to play for me. Oh, that's not coaching, that's recruiting. That's like college sports right now.
Yeah,
Just pay somebody more to come play for us.
Yeah, you gotta rock in a hard place there.
We've never
It's
turned,
tough.
all the years I was here, I think Doug and I, at least 18 years, we never turned a kid away from Seymour, ever. I don't care what town they came from. I've had people come in my street and play catch with me so that they could try to make a team, because their parents wanted them to play.
Yep.
And they were from Elk Mound and Whitehall, and we don't turn people away, but you also gotta take care of your own people first.
Oh, yeah,
So that
100%.
you Make sure you're not saying, oh, my kid got bumped from a kid that doesn't even play. That's not what we want. And that's what that rule was put in place for.
Well, and to that point, to kind of go back all the way to the very beginning of this, when we talked about, the moms group and that really nasty Facebook post, that was that mom's problem. So it must have happened, at least.
They didn't have a
from
spot. They didn't have a spot on a team.
I don't know.
They were kicked out of the
That's what I'm saying.
program. So if you don't know the situation, you can't speak on that.
Yeah, and so, but just to kind of clarify, I think that's where.
Yep, so, yeah, they had a team. They had a stars team.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I got, then I think that's what got spun into.
Yep, that's what, when you don't get the whole story and it's posted anonymously, you got
Oh,
people that
yeah.
don't know the situation. It's a bad look,
It
certainly.
was bad, it was bad.
Really terrible.
Okay.
I think too, the volunteer hours is what, like, the conflict is with kids doing travel ball and not playing league, because travel ball still needs the volunteers to run concession stands and stuff, so that's where, I know, when I went to the music, that was a big conflict, was we didn't have enough volunteers to put on this tournament. So maybe like if you don't do league, maybe it's travel ball parents, and you have to do a few more volunteer hours.